Yes, I know you have a lot of questions. I'm sorry, John. We ran out of time a little bit in this session, and we would like to hear about your book. And congratulations to you and all your co-authors. And I would like to invite all speakers who are present on the stage right now to please open your videos so we can see who all are present here.
We have Ryan, we have Ken.
Brian?
And James Hoadley.
Great.
Hoadley, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So,
and Ken.
Yes.
So,
Right.
clearly, this is an our humble effort to start the programming in sustainability and net zero carbon emission, etc. We got very good responses, excellent registrations, and we are going to take this topic subject to our annual conference, which is on November 16th and 17th. It will be done in live, Georgia, one of the Georgia Tech facilities, as well as in the hybrid mode, virtually also. So my first question would be to Ken, who has been a very senior administrator in state of Georgia also, and asking him a question in his personal opinion now. Ken, what do you think the state governments and cities can do? What as private citizens we can do to accelerate the part and education about sustainability, and how can we bring more and more corporate partners into the dialogue?
Well, I was hopeful you'd have an easy question, Ani, and it's certainly not one. We have a lot of challenges, as Max knows well from working across the world. The U.S. Politic is such that we have everything from climate deniers to those that are certainly passionate about obvious things that are happening in the environment. And so what can we as individual citizens do? I don't think it's anything secret. It's talking to our elected representatives, letting them know that we're concerned. And I think from a company perspective, gosh, it's awfully important because most companies are international in their operations, and certainly many are international in their ownership. And so they, I know, are in a place where they're beginning to face pressures in one place that may be adopting some SDGs because of their behavior in another. And so it's, I think it's being diligent, continuing to discuss it, be informed. I think that's really the only choice we have on it.
Great, thank you. John, next question from you.
Yes, I'm curious as to the SDGs. Which one do you think, and this is addressed more specifically to our corporate members here that are still present, which of the SDGs 17 do you consider uppermost? Obviously, we always think about carbon neutrality, net zero, better use of water type resources, but are there other social goals that you consider salient? The question of reducing poverty is, of course, a challenging question to pose to a multinational company. It brings back the opposition between economics per se and ethics. What is the responsible conduct for a company? We have here 3 different companies. I'd like to get your sense on that. And perhaps the answer could be that this is truly a matter for government policy, rather than corporations. So focused on the question of reducing poverty. It's a tough one.
Sure. Well, I mean, our whole goal around sustainability is around preservation of food, right, and waste. I mean, that's one of the largest issues that we deal with, is that there's hunger out there. And that's one of the 17 sustainability goals, is to eliminate hunger. But I mean, that's our main goal. We touch billions and billions of pounds of food every day. And if you look at how much food is waste, there's a lot of statistics that go around. And it's a very large number of the amount of food that waste. If we come in contact with it, it's less than 0.0001%. If we touch it, that it's going to get to the consumer. It's going to get out of there. The other ones are really life on land, life in water. Those are critically important to us, strictly from just a corporate perspective, because a lot of our income stream revenue is coming from fisheries, where they're bringing in fish from the ocean and fresh waters that we store. And then obviously life on land is critically important because of all the livestock that we basically end up taking in as a protein. And so for us, we've got to look at all of those, and not just to preservation of the food and preservation of the crops that those animals feed on, but you got to be able to look and say also, what kind of methane gas and what kind of pollution do the animals that we're bringing in and the boats that are going out getting those fish in. So that's really what I was talking about before when you think about that scope 3 emission that we have to deal with. So those are critically important to us. And I think the best way for us to do it is we have to partner with our vendors, partner with our customers, and we have to help them find solutions.
Max, you may want to cast on the question of poverty before we leave it, a local government, because I mean, it is a local government problem, especially with homeless people and so on, food clinics and the like.
Right, and this is a principle that cuts across the whole framework. It's this idea of leaving no one behind, regardless of the SDG. As a basis of the whole framework, there is this idea that progress cannot be just advantaging, certain communities. And so obviously SDG1 on poverty is sort of like the one that reflects the most that principle. But again, when we see cities disaggregating their data on, again, most of the SDGs of the framework, suddenly this issue of inequality, becomes like center and obvious. And so this is, again, another innovation that we see at the local level is when cities are using the framework and also looking deeper into the spatial inequalities, and demographic inequalities, on certain indicators, that suddenly they are able to identify, major gaps in the way their local policies are developed.
Right.
Raymond, do you want to cast a different light from the point of view of Switzerland, perhaps, or more broadly, a UN look at the question of poverty, which is one of the #1 SDGs? We forget.
I think, John, we have to give simple questions to Raymond.
Yeah.
These are very large answers.
He is used to dealing with complexity.
Okay. I'd like to say the following. There are groups which have done excellent work to give good examples. One in Japan is called the Coal Round Table, CAUX. It's named after a small village near Geneva. But these are Japanese, thoughtful Japanese leaders who invite regularly Japanese big companies and Japanese NGOs. They discuss what they're from both sides, what could be improved. And those Japanese transnational companies who work in developing countries, the poverty issue, of course, comes up regularly. But poverty is multifunctional. It's not just to have poor people. They also, most of the time, don't have enough to eat. That's a food issue. It's another SDG. Right. It's many forms of discrimination, which then end up being just unfortunate. It leads to no way to include. The SDGs, let's not forget, it was clearly stated in the preamble. We should move forward in an inclusive manner, transparent manner, and participatory manner. So I think if our companies, no matter where they're based, could go a little bit beyond just business as usual and continue to be very innovative and do all the great stuff that we just heard before from our two colleagues, but to have that spillover of innovativeness, of reaching out to the society, to the communities, to get them to be involved. I mean, it's smaller stuff. For instance, you know, when big multinational companies sometimes forget when they go to a developing country, they just bring more or less everything. Their own machines, equipment, and their own experts. And the Chinese, for instance, bring their own workers. Versus finding ways to, you know, source locally, to have the smaller enterprise have some sort of a future, upgrade them by including them. So it's like a bit of training, a bit of capacity building, or maybe even a deliberate discriminatory move to say, we do our best to source locally because we know it will lead to jobs and it maybe also lead to more knowledge.
Right.
I
So
was,
Jeff,
I was wondering if Jeff could pipe in, because digitalization in service provision and the like, how do you make it more inclusive? Because there are quite a few people who are not necessarily hooked or connected. Do you think industries should have initiatives to basically increase access, whether it's mobile or otherwise? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say the evolution, the advancement of mobile phones, like I mentioned earlier, it's largely generational. It's really created this proliferation of new consumers entering the financial services and payments ecosystem. The challenge with that is that it leaves segments of the population who don't already have mobile phones or mobile payments technology out of kind of this evolution. So one of the things that I think is great, a lot of the payments providers and the banks and financial services providers are looking for ways to create more inclusion for those underserved consumers. And I think there's a lot of really good work taking place to bring them into that ecosystem, because as you could probably imagine, at some point they get left behind, right? And then the canyon between the haves and have-nots, it's not good on multiple levels, right, for society. So there's a lot of really good efforts. And again, I think the evolution of cloud software technology and other, whether it's using a thumbprint to pay for something, there's different ways to include people into the ecosystem, even if they don't have, you know, $1,000 iPhone, right? So, and that's what I think is really important, or else, as you can imagine, I think the problem becomes systemic and much larger over time. So there's a very deliberate focus on bringing people into
I'm
that
thinking of, Jeff, the case of Orange, the French telecommunication company, particularly its work in Western Africa, English-speaking Africa, to really, with very simple cell phones, change the nature of payment and transaction flows, make it accessible to perhaps impoverished farmers to really hook into the market and being able to sell their products and find distribution channels which would not otherwise be accessible, or simply make day-to-day payment transactions without having to lug around currency.
Exactly. So one example in particular is M-Pesa in Kenya, right? So what some of the legacy phone providers, whether it's Nokia or Ericsson, the M-Pesa platform for Eastern Africa runs on very, it doesn't require a smartphone to enable payments, right? You can use a legacy Nokia phone that maybe came out 15, 20 years ago to initiate payments. And that's a perfect example of repurposing, in many respects, older versions of cell phones, put them into the hands of consumers in developing economies so they can still participate. So that's a huge success story. And quite frankly, the mobile network operators in Africa, not just North Africa, but Sub-Sahara, are doing a lot of really creative and innovative things to bring people into the payments ecosystem. So I think it's very encouraging, and more importantly, I think it's highly necessary, or else there's you get large segments of the population who get left behind.
Right.
Which,
So Ethan,
Yeah.
Ethan, sorry, John.
Go ahead.
I have a question, not from your company point of view, Cox Enterprises point of view, but society as a whole about dealing with e-waste. We have now millions and billions of gadgets which are, are being produced and used, and how as a world, how as a society, how would we deal with that kind of e-waste?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people are trying to tackle that issue of e-waste. I think a big focus that we should be looking at is collaboration and looking to solutions that will be able to not only provide waste diversion, but also cost benefit. Because a lot of the times waste programs, they may not be, it may be an uphill battle to get approved, whether it be budgeting or stakeholder engagement. But at Cox, we leverage a lot of nonprofit organization to provide recycling and e-waste solutions. So for example, in Atlanta, we partnered with CHARM, which stands for Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, and they have solutions to be able to recycle and repurpose a variety of different types of materials, including e-waste. So we look for local partnerships and United States partnerships to help us reach those goals. So there are solutions out there. You really just have to look around, ask around, and e-waste is a challenge for everyone. So
I was thinking that Atlanta is privileged to have organizations such as CARE, I think Catholic Relief, and perhaps it's a conveyor belt for corporations to really have an impact by supporting as much as possible such organizations. What's your sense of that, Brian, particularly with food surplus, or Ethan or Jeff, as you support NGOs? Do you select them according to certain criteria, which would be related to some of the SDGs? Because we have a lot of those NGOs here located just in the case of Atlanta, but of course that's worldwide. Do you support CARE, for example?
Brian?
Ethan? Cox is very supportive of a variety of social causes.
yeah, I've never heard of CARE. It's my first time hearing it, but yeah, we are very supportive of social initiatives that do have a lot of overlap with SDGs. Poverty is one of them, connectivity, broadband, infrastructure. So we're very invested in that. We're we have in the corporate social responsibility team, we have someone dedicated to corporate giving. So we're very involved with our nonprofits, and we actively look for companies and organizations that are looking to make the local environment better. So whether it be conservation, different social initiatives, STEAM education in underserved areas. So those are kind of the things we are looking for, just in short.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question on the chat room which seems to be interesting. Probably Ken can answer that. And the question is about sustainable fuels, especially aviation fuels. And Ken, as far as I recall, you're a pilot also. Would you like to comment on that?
I don't think I'm qualified really to comment on it. I do know that the U.S. military has been trying for some time to use some renewable-based fuels. And fortunately, a jet engine can run on, this is a pretty good variety of quality of fuels. But I really don't feel qualified to answer. I wish I could. Sorry. Maybe someone else knows.
Jim Hoadley, you had a suggestion?
Well, at Georgia Tech, we're part of a consortium working on 4 separate sustainability projects for NASA. And there is one that is related to sustainable jet fuel. And I've posted in the chat the name of the person who is the Georgia Tech contact for that. So my suggestion to the person who asked the question is to reach out to them.
Right.
Very good. Well, we're reaching the end of that sort of fireside, informal as it is. Particularly our last presenters, Raymond and Max. Do you have any parting thoughts you want to sort of leave with us before the lunch hour? Here, that is, or the dinner time.
Just a suggestion. Every year in New York, there is this gathering. It's called the High Level Political Forum.
Yes.
Where countries present. That's the VNR. At the same time, there's also the VLR. But that moment, every year, there are 5 of the 17 SDGs that are highlighted. They're so-called, then become thematic. Next year, energy is one of them. I would say our dear friends and colleagues from the private sector who are innovative, I think this will be a great opportunity to look at which ones are these 5 goals that will be highlighted, where people come to New York to get solutions or to look for solutions. This could be a great opportunity to do a side event if you could, through your company, show how some of these burning questions of these every year, it changes every year, but of these next year's 5 thematic goals, how your company could help finding solutions.
There is very little known on the HLPF, and I know you participate in it, Raymond. Can you tell us a little more? Because I sense that it is one of the working gear for the SDGs in terms of reporting, feeding back, modifying. Could you tell us a little more about this entity?
Every year, the UN organizes this event, ever since the whole thing started in 2015. Hence, countries are invited to come and present. And at the moment, actually, there are more countries who want to present than there is space to present. And it's a very interesting moment where, let's say, I don't know, Switzerland presented this year. Then other countries can publicly ask Switzerland questions about their report, whether there is something they didn't understand or whether something they thought is missing. And on top of it, the so-called major groups, which are NGOs, they also take the floor and ask their often critical questions when a country maybe is too much, doing the nice, we are a nice country and so on, public relations campaign. And that moment of interaction is a great opportunity. And we have very, very good side events where you could meet people from all parts of the world, being university people, NGOs, companies also, and of course, governments. So I think it would be worthwhile to just read what is in the making and how to maybe, there's a one major group called business major group. So if you're interested in the SDGs, why not ask them how next year could be made more lively? Because oftentimes the business NGO group doesn't do much. And that's maybe a bit of a too tough of a statement, but they don't take the floor. They're just basically just sitting there. So you could help them to become a bit more active, help them to find out what you're doing in the company, how you're being able to innovate. That's what we need. For the SDGs, innovation is absolutely necessary, besides finance and political will. But the political will is, as Max was alluding to it, it's relationship, it's working together. These are my 5 points.
Yeah. What are the tentative dates for the next HLPF?
It's always in September.
September. So it's with the...
Oh, I'm sorry. HLPF is always in July.
In July.
And in September, every 4 years, there is a big meeting about fully reassessing where the SDGs are, what should be changed, and this will be the case next year. There will be an ECOSOC-led taking stock in September, which is crucial because indicators will also be discussed.
Okay.
Thank you, John. With this, I would like to remind you that we have 1 minute to close today's program. And I would like to share a slide with all of you to basically thank the companies and organizations who have made this program possible. We appreciate their support, and without corporate support, these kind of programs are not possible. We really appreciate support from Novalis Group. They've been supporting us for the last 5-6 years in these programs. We also appreciate the help and support of Georgia Tech CIBER, Dr. McIntyre, Cantaloupe Inc., Forward Foresight, Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, University of South Carolina, Beaufort, Next Generation Manufacturing, Connex, Third Millennium Technologies, and French American Chamber of Commerce, who have helped us joint hand to promote this event successfully. We are very delighted with the participation, and we look forward to working with these existing partners and pick up also new partners as we go forward. I would like to also remind you one more time that our 13th annual US-India Business Summit, 28th Georgia Tech Global Business Forum is scheduled for November 16 and 17. Please mark your calendars, and we will stay in touch with you about our one more program which we might have in October. John, on to you, sir, to close.
No, just expressing my gratitude to all of you, particularly Raymond, who actually suffered the most in order to be present physically on time. He just arrived in Switzerland
sorry, John,
2 minutes ago.
I have to though acknowledge that the pilot who decided after 1 hour of flying into the Atlantic that the situation was critical and he turned back. I'd rather lose a day than lose my life.
Yes, indeed. Well, on that cheerful note, we will bid you a good day, and looking forward to more cooperation and more interaction. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. It's always good to see you. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Max, whom I hadn't seen in a while. And Brian, you inspire us with the potential that you bring to the table. And Ethan also, we look forward to, unfortunately, I don't think we can have you as a student, but Emory will be blessed with having you.
Well, with your permission, Dr. McIntyre, I would close the session now and signing off all of you all. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Take care.